There you go. Good evening. Good Voch. מועדים לשמחה. מוצאי שבס. חול המועד סוכות תש"פ base. We're sitting in the sukkah today, and my wife asked me, like, what's in your mind? So I said that I'm struck by the idea. I'm struck by the idea that today, while this is going on, it's the only Shabbos Chol HaMoed Tafshin Bes that ever was and that ever will be. That's it. It's unique. Any Shabbos Chol HaMoed, any year, any other year, is a total different thing. Rabbeinu says that every day is unique. How much more so, it's a Shabbos Chol HaMoed, all the different configurations and combinations. It's almost like the safes of, I don't know if old of new, I don't know. That they have these gears inside, and when you turn it this way, then you turn it that way, and 3 to the right and 2 to the left and 4, all these kind of things that sort of open up the lock. Every single day is a unique combination, and it's a combination that one cannot do without. If you go to a safe and there are like 15 steps, if you say, listen, I'm just going to do 9 of them, it's enough. You're not going to open the door. With all due respect. It's very impressive, like listening, maybe even taking a stethoscope, like in the old robber movies, click, click, If you don't do all 15 steps, nothing doing. Sesame ain't open, It doesn't open. So my wife asked me, what do you mean by that? I said, just meditate on this, observe it. Think about it. It's not some kind of a limud that I would go ahead and expound on what this particular day means and whatever it is, because I don't know. But it's a fact. It's the truth. And it's a significant fact. It's not a small thing. So I thought I'd mention it. While we're at it, we'll touch 2 things by the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov HaKodesh said in one of his holy Sichos, I testify upon me, Shemayim va'aretz, heaven and earth, that there was a very, very harsh judgment on a certain person, based in Shalmala. And that person, the only thing he didn't know, the only thing he knew how to do is to pray and to say Tehillim. And he was wondrous, he was extraordinary in the Ahavas Yisrael that he had. I'm sure it's all the koiches of his nefesh. I'm sorry. In the machshava that he always thought about Ahavas Yisrael. In Dibor, he always thought, I apologize, about Ahavas Yisrael. And Maisa, that he would benefit anyone from Yisrael the way he could. And he felt the tsar of every Yid. Aside if it was a man or if it was a woman. And Leslie was very happy at their simcha. And the Paskin, based in Shalmaya, Mala his chelik, to be in Gan Eden between huge tzaddikim and geonim. That Chazal said about them that they were also. I want to say Moshe Rabbeinu or Yisrael Haya. And a krechts, a sigh, that a Jew is sighing for the trouble of another Jew, breaks iron curtains of prosecuting angels, and the simcha and the bracha that a Jew, that comes out of the fact that a Jew is happy in the happiness of somebody else. Sorry, and he benches him, is accepted by Hashem Yisbarach, like the tefillah of Rabbi Yishmael Kohen Gadol in Kodesh HaKodeshim. It's tremendous. It's tremendous. Rabbeinu says that the Indian of Havas Yisrael, Rabbeinu says, one of the Sichos Haran, that a Jew should feel in his heart the trouble, the distress of another person, another Jew. He says, especially if you're talking about a distress of a whole call, a whole congregation, a whole of Jews, and they're in distress. Bevada is something that needs to be felt in the heart of every Jew. Now, like everything else, to feel the distress of other people is one of the tchunas hanefesh. It's your character traits. Some people, softies, what can you do? Obviously, it's a wonderful thing to be born with this kind of tchunas hanefesh, this kind of inborn character trait. It also stands to reason at the same time that to be happy in somebody else's simcha it's even harder unless you are predisposed to that. To feel the sorrow of another Jew is a more common kind of inborn character trait than to be happy when another Jew is with simcha. The Bena says that when people go to a wedding, so every person enjoys a different portion of the wedding. This one enjoys the orchestra. And this one enjoys the chicken with pineapple. This one enjoys the dancing. It's only, the Baal Simcha himself that feels all the simchas together. Simcha of the chasana, the simcha of the Baal Simcha, of the guests, of the orchestra, of the food, and everything else. Usually, the chasan and the kala, they don't have a clue what's going on. They are scared out of their wits, and they're very happy, though they're not exactly sure why. And everything that goes on around them is a blur. It's usually more the parents, the Baal Simcha, that are more open to be, to experience all the facets of the simcha. For people to feel the tsar of another Jew, the distress of another Jew, and how much more so to feel the happiness of another Jew, is not an easy thing. By most people, just hearing the distress of another person is very distressing. It puts you in it's difficult to hear. These are special people, that are not frightened away from the pain of others. In other words, they feel the pain, but they don't shirk away. They don't need to run away. These are the kind of people that usually people gravitate to. But Rabbeinu says that the Gemara says, it's better one b'tzar than 100 without tzar means that a person should daven and ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu to feel the tzar of somebody else. And how much more so the person needs to daven to feel the simcha of somebody else. The Rabbeinu says that in the Maisa of the 7 beggars of the deaf beggar, that he said, each one of the beggars as they came, each one seems to be suffering from an enormous deformity. One of them was blind, one of them was deaf, one of them was mute, one of them had no hands, one of them had no legs, one of them had a hunchback. Every one of the beggars had something that seemed like a disability, but when the time came for them to be revealed, they all explained that their deformity or seeming deformity was just a perception by the people. That wasn't who they were. So the deaf beggar said, the reason why I seem to the people to be deaf is because none of the diburim in the world get into my ears. It says because the only things that they speak about, the thing that generates their diburim and what they talk about stems from what they lack. It says somebody is talking either of what he doesn't have, and somebody else is talking about how happy he is because a lack that he had was fulfilled. But the Maisa, each and every person of the Olam, is basically speaking of a lack. And he says that these kind of diburim did not get into his ears. He wasn't interested. It's very interesting that the Pinchas of Koretz, there was one of the biggest Hasidic tzaddikim of all time, was a Talmud Baal Shem Tov. Today we're talking about the Pinchas of Koretz. Everybody jumps trembling to their feet. But during his younger days, they used to call him the deaf bocher. He's a bocher, said he learned and did this. And whatever they'll tell him, he didn't hear. He didn't listen to any of the diburim. The way the Olam looked at him was as the deaf bocher. He was deaf. What do you mean you don't care? if the Yankees won or lost. I mean, what's wrong with you? What do you mean you don't have an opinion whether Biden was right to take people out of Afghanistan or not? I mean, how can you not have an opinion? What's it got to do with me? What all these debating got to do with me? The natural way of looking at things for people comes out of the fact that they're looking at things out of that which they themselves are lacking. It is often easier for somebody who has been through hard times to sympathize with somebody else who is going through hard times. Because one remembers what one went through, and he goes and he feels like, what the other one is going through. That's already also Madriga. That one is using his own experience of distress to be able to be more sensitized to the tsar of somebody else. To be happy in somebody else's simcha, that already takes a madriga. That already takes a madriga. That you should be able to be happy in somebody else's simcha. You know, and again, not because you had anything to do with it. I mean, Hashem, Alevah, you helped them, you did, whatever. It's a gavald, it's an unbelievable thing. But to be happy in the simcha of somebody else, it's an incredible thing. This, of course, leads us to the way to, sorry about that, to achieve those character traits, which is, of course, to daven for it. It's bichlal a good thing for a person to keep a to-do list about everything. But especially to keep a to-do list of things that I need to daven for. Now, it's very easy to be discouraged. You know, once I already get to daven about, you know, the fact that I want to feel somebody else's tsar. I want to feel somebody else's simcha. It's usually something that will take, I would say, 5-10 seconds if you really stick to it. How much can you talk about it? What do you mean I don't have more important things to ask for? You know, I have to take care of my children, and I don't feel that well. My wife needs to be well, and this, that, and I have problems with this and problems with this. So some stuff, you know, at the end of the line, you know, maybe let me feel the tsar of somebody else. And of course, let me feel the simcha of somebody else. But the important thing that we need to understand we just went through The Rebbe's Yotzeit. The Rebbe's Yotzeit is an unparalleled occasion. Usually, not meaning chas v'chalil to put anybody down, but a usual Yotzeit is during that day there's an extra illumination of the neshama of the tzaddik whose Yotzeit it is, and you draw from his koyach, you draw from his chos. Again, usually it's something which is, success oriented. Usually it's something which is, I don't feel that well, I don't have enough money, whatever it is. It's something that stems out of a chisaron. Rabbeinu's Yotzeit is different because this is not a celebration of a tzaddik that lived. This is a celebration of the Rebbe. The Rebbe is still the Rebbe. And it's very different in the sense that, one of the difficulties, great difficulties, that Reb Nosson had in not just believing, but even wanting to believe, being ready to believe, the day before the Rebbe was mustalek, that the Rebbe is going to leave this world. Even though the Rebbe was very explicit about it, for a long time too. And why was it so difficult for him to accept? Besides the fact that Reb Nosson was the only one who realized who we're actually talking about. And it was simply something which cannot be perceived as that leaving the world. It's not. As Rabbeinu says, the chidush kamoni lo haya me'olam. Such a chidush, there has never been anything like it. And Rabbeinu said, gamarti ve'egmor. I finished, and I will finish. Nitzachti, I've overcome, I won. V'anatzeach, and I will win. So Reb Nosson just could not wrap his mind around this. Rabbeinu said that he has accomplished everything that he needed to accomplish. So Reb Nosson was absolutely convinced that Rabbeinu will live for many, many more years. Because when you take a look at what was going on at that time, when Rabbeinu left this world, it seems that very little was accomplished. There's all kinds of machlokes about how many people came to Rabbeinu. But even the most generous estimate was a few hundreds. And here's Rabbeinu says, Nitzachti v'anatzeach. I have won, and I will win. Gamarti ve'egmor. I finished, and I will finish. For I am a river that cleanses all the stains. Where is he? When you go to Uman for Rosh Hashanah, there is a big remez, there's a big clue to what's going on. because Uman represents a dichotomy between the fact that it is the most unbelievable happening, taking, a place in a different country with tremendous amounts of hardship to get there. And it goes and it basically takes place, minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, until it's gone. At the same time, Uman is just about the most flagrant example of ineptness of this organization that you can possibly get. It's like, except for Shiner that takes care of whatever he takes care of, nobody takes care of anything. I'll get the vat here, the vat there, whatever it is, but it's a joke. It's literally a joke. And it still takes place. This unbelievable thing taking place every single year. Drawing the people every single year. Overcoming unbelievable hurdles. And all the Shemazalnikas are the one who was actually arranging things. Except for one person who feeds people. That's it. This one is doing this one is a little Tichteger is arranging, vans to go back and forth, whatever. But it's a small time thing. Did you see what's happening in Meron? With the buses, with the police, with the and everything. The answer to Reb Noson's conundrum is the Rebbe's message to each and every one of us. And that is, success is not the prerequisite. I say it again. Success is not a prerequisite. You don't need to fix that which you can't fix. You see that you can't fix it, it's not your problem. Yeah, what about me? You can't fix me. Do what you can. And what about what I can't? It's not for you. It's not your job. All you need to do is your job. That's it. No more. The Rebbe does the rest. You do a mitzvah. You learn something. Rabbeinu says, you bring me bricks and mortar, and I build unbelievable buildings from it. Unbelievable structures. As you can see from the mice of the beggar without hands, we're talking about 10 walls of water that the Shekhinah runs through, and the king, the Russia, is shooting 10 different kind of arrows with 10 different kind of poisons. And that beggar that has no hands, it seems to the world that he's an amputee, has no hands. He has such koach in his hands that he can retrieve the arrows not only after they were shot, but even after they hit. The walls of water, the 10 walls of water, represents all the spiritual elements. That's what the tzaddik builds with our brick and mortar. Not the Torah, not the tefillah. And I'm saying this so the first the first ha'ara that Rabbeinu gives us is, this is my job and this is your job. And success is not part of the job description. The only thing which is a job description is stick to it to the best of your ability, and when you fall, try to get up. And get up. And the way that you achieve everything is by asking. By asking the Kodesh Baruch Hu. So we're going back to the to-do list. Get yourself a piece of paper, a harder piece of paper, and write on it the things that you need to daven for. Amongst them, to feel the tzara of somebody else, and to feel the simcha of somebody else. And then, whenever it is that you speak to Kodesh Baruch Hu, if you manage a full-fledged Zbeidus Avada, even if you can do a word here, a word there, a sentence here, something there, take out your to-do list and ask once, twice. You see you don't have any heart. Okay, these are words that you're saying, but you don't really mean it. It's not true, but you don't really mean it. You're saying it. If you didn't mean it, you wouldn't be saying this at all. So you mean it to a certain extent. Okay, that's very good. And the way that you get from meaning it to the extent that you mean it now, to a higher extent, is by asking it the way that you mean it now. Repeat it again, repeat it again. When you keep it on a to-do list, it keeps things in, it keeps it up in your mind. Obviously, you always have the one major boo-boo that you're asking of. Midas-wise. One can be miserly, one can feel like being taken advantage of, and one feels whatever it is. That's the main thing that you have to work on. Venus is internet based, but all the other things, don't let go of it. Don't let go of it. It has a lot to do with Sicha 88 that I wanted to cover today, but it's a longer Sicha, and this is where Rabbeinu gives Lamaisa. It's not Lamaisa the same. It's the same Eitzah, but at much greater depth, because Rabbeinu talks about getting to the 13 Midas Shel Achamim. About Hashem. We'll talk about it. It's Hashem more next week. Being obviously that Monday night is Simchas Torah, so we will not be meeting. It's Hashem, we'll all gather here again, happy with each other's simcha, and as we are continuing on the Likutei Moharan, I just want to enable you to unmute everyone.